another quote of yours was, I was confused and suffered chronic depression for nearly 8 years. And I think who I have become today is a result of trying to constantly figure out who I am and what I am here to do. It's all to do with self-awareness and constant trial and error. And so I wanted to dig into that a little bit more. We are always taught that, be like this, or this is success and run after this. But I think what's really unique and really interesting about your story is how you paved your own way, and it was through trying to figure out who you are. So that's something I wanted to ask you next about, how did you figure out what it is that you wanted to do?
Man, I feel like when we stop trying and when we surrender is when, at least for me, that's when the best things have, that's when I discovered my passion to my career, to this whole fitness thing, which is my current vehicle of serving and making money and everything. So for me, it was not, a lot of people ask me, so what was your strategy and your plan? How did everything I didn't have any plan. I didn't know anything about business. All I knew was, so I studied criminal justice. I came to Sri Lanka. I worked in media for 5 years. I loved expressing myself, but I couldn't express myself fully because there are restrictions when you're on radio or on TV. Although I knew speaking and expressing myself was a huge part of what I wanted to do, there's something off with that. And at the same time, the other one thing that kept me sane and kept me going was movement. So in Australia, when I went through that massively dark time period, I also got raped when I was in Australia. So basically, depression is basically unexpressed pain or lack of expression. So when I started moving, I realized that as my body was getting stronger, my mind was getting stronger, the way I held myself changed, my perception changed, the way I looked at myself changed. I started respecting myself more because I was more disciplined, I was accountable. Because before that, I was all over the place. I didn't know how to pay my bills. I kept getting fired from jobs. I lied. I had no integrity. I was just all over the place. So I had no respect for myself. And after being with that man who constantly shamed me and called me a slut, I started believing those things. So I myself call myself a slut. You know what I mean? When I started moving, though, everything changed. I felt like whatever was stored and just was deep inside me somehow kind of got released. And whenever I would train at gym, people would especially women would approach me and ask me do you train? Can you train me? Are you a coach? And then my bosses would say every time I walk into the studio, you're watching some deadlift video, can you just can you do your job properly? And then I remember my last workplace, they were they were great to me. But I remember I took a taxi one day, I went to my workplace right before I was about to get off. I felt so sick in my stomach. I knew I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't physically go there. So I came back with no savings, no backup plan. I quit and I started doing fitness full time. So I started with personal training, one-on-one coaching. And I feel like I always could read a woman's body. Beyond the body, I feel like I can read the emotions and the stuff that you're holding on to, the emotional stuff behind why you do certain things. I felt like I could read these things about women. So personal training became amazing. I made really good money. I would train 5 clients a day, but then it came to a point where I was doing it for the money. But then I realized if I want to fuel my passion and if I want to serve more, and be able to have time to create content and keep doing this, I'm going to switch to online coaching. And online coaching was not available then when I started. In Sri Lanka, it was not a thing. So I was one of the few people who started it. And then it turned out to be the best decision ever.
So you almost had an intuition almost about it, something made you think about online coaching as even an option when it wasn't an option in Sri Lanka.
I think it was my ability to take risks. I think a lot of people stick to familiarity so much because of the fear of failure. I have failed multiple times, but I feel like every failure taught me, and it was definitely worth it. And I think it's our rigidness that stops us from trying things out.